What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the What the Fun Show, where we take a look at some of the movies that we've been watching and review them. My name is Mike, and I'm with my co-host here, Joe. How you doing today, Joe?
Oh, I am doing great. I did a little recap, but I didn't do a recap by rewatching the movie, because, I watched it recently. I watched the honest trailer. It was a great way to recap.
Okay, well, maybe we'll see some similarities or some good jokes come to fruition, because today, listeners, we are reviewing the Desolation of Smaug, the second movie in the Hobbit trilogy, in our Lord of the Rings content here that is in anticipation of the new Amazon Prime series coming out in September. So stay tuned. We're going to have weekly episodes of all Lord of the Rings leading up to that show. And we will be reviewing that show probably every single episode, just like we did with the Obi-Wan series. But we will get all of that out to you. We're really excited for that show in general. Big Lord of the Rings fans over here at What the Fun. So, a little bit of housekeeping. If you're listening to us on a podcatcher of choice, please leave us a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. It really does help us out. It gets us in the algorithms and helps us be seen by others. And so leave us a 5-star review there. Let us know how we're doing. We would love to read it on the show. And if you are on Spotify, you can leave us a rating there, just a star rating on mobile only. So leave us a star rating there. Finally, if you're watching us on YouTube, please consider subscribing. We are on the road to 100 subscribers, so we could simply say youtube.com/whatthefunpod. So that is all the housekeeping for you. Test Your Might, our video game debate show, is going to have episodes weekly, so stay tuned for those. And then as well as we will potentially be getting a Prey review out once that releases on Hulu. So we're going to be watching that and maybe do the original Predator as well, review that for you guys. So exciting stuff on the horizon. Joe, you ready to get into the Desolation of Smaug?
Yeah, Smaug. It's not all bad.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah, he has a nice name for his fans that they gave himself, which I can't mention on here, but if you don't know what it is, listeners, you should look it up. It's funny. I think they changed it officially recently, but still, I go with the original.
Yeah, so this is the second movie in the Hobbit trilogy. It is once again directed by Peter Jackson, and it is, I don't know if you knew this, Joe, but it is still, even though it's the second movie, it is still based on The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien.
I know, weird, right?
Yeah.
There's like one book and they made 3 movies off it. I know. And they added stuff that never existed before.
I don't even know. All right. It certainly stars Ian McKellen as Gandalf, Martin Freeman as Bilbo, Richard Armitage as Thorin, Ken Stott as Balin, all the other dwarfs. There's so many. Can't even name them all.
Did you say Balin? I'm going to correct you. Balin?
Is it Balin?
It is.
See, the way that I would pronounce
Oing gloing.
Balin is with 2 L's, and this is spelled with 1. So I'm just going with Balin.
Dwarvish, man.
Sorry. And spoiler alert: you do have Orlando Bloom and Evangeline Tilly coming back here as Tauriel and Legolas. So yeah.
Yeah, you sound so excited about that. It's very good. Oh. I mean, was in the book.
We'll get into it. It was in the book. Maybe, there is one scene involving the elves that is probably the best scene for me in all the movie, but
okay.
Yeah, we'll go from there. And then Lee Pace is Thranduil, who is the wood elf. He's the wood elf
king
dude, right? Leader. All right. Music by Howard Shore, of course, who is just phenomenal. This did release.
Absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, this did release in the United States on December 13th, 2013. Runtime of 161 minutes, sans the extended edition. And its budget was 191 to 250 million estimated, and it did not break the 1 billion mark. Only 959 million in the box office.
Only. Like
Yeah,
that's a small amount of money.
It's chump
I
change.
only made almost $1 billion. Almost $1 billion.
I mean,
That's disgusting.
It's only a crazy amount of profit. So I'm just.
Yeah,
anyway.
I think they did all right.
All right, now let's get into it here, Joe. Spoiler-free review. Let's hear from none other than you.
You ready?
Yes, I
all
want
right.
it.
Guys, if you've been tuning in to my spoiler review, they're pretty good. They're not
solid.
descriptive at all. So, spoiler-free review goes as is. If you want more hobbits and dwarves, well, you'll get one hobbit and several dwarves. In this one, they go to places and they see things on an adventure. They eventually reach a place that they're trying to get to, but lots of stuff happens and it's okay. There it is.
It's okay. All right. Yeah, you know, I do know somewhat of your feelings as well as Justin's feelings on this. But I think I'm slightly higher on this movie than you guys are. And the thing that really keeps it together for me in this in particular is mostly legacy characters coming back. And then I do believe that Benedict Cumberbatch does a really good job as Smaug.
Unbelievable. Despite
my qualms with the third act in this movie. I have a lot of qualms with the third act. We'll get to those here in the plot, but for the most part, again, like the music is phenomenal. It's just a fun movie. It's not like I'll keep it spoiler free, but besides the third act, like it's not super draggy to me. Like it's not overly long. Even though it is a 3-hour movie, I'm talking about Lord of the Rings here, but still but still it doesn't hit the highs that the first one in this trilogy does. And I truly believe the highs of the first one are pretty high for me, as far as this trilogy. So Gandalf is great. Thorin is still great. Martin Freeman as Bilbo, still great. So you have what you say a lot of times. You have a lot of diamonds in the rough, because this movie does have a lot of rough. And you know, I'll have to still rewatch the third one. Haven't done that yet, but from my recollection, this has more diamonds in the rough than the third one does. So
it's a bit shinier than the third one.
All right, so let's get into it. Listeners, if you have not seen The Desolation of Smaug, second movie in the Hobbit trilogy, this is your official spoiler warning. Hey, you.
What the?
What are you doing?
Who, me?
Do you want to be spoiled? No? Well then.
Stop it. Get some help.
So you don't feel like this guy. Instead, let it be a surprise.
Oh, I like surprises.
So go watch the thing before you move on in the podcast, okay?
Alrighty then.
Alrighty then, listeners, let's get into it. We got the plot here. Gandalf and Thorin Oakenshield meet at the Prancing Pony, and Gandalf convinces Thorin to take back Erebor in the Lonely Mountain. 12 months later.
The flashback.
Yeah, this was so it does start off with a flashback scene. You kind of don't get the understanding of that until Gandalf comes in, because I mean, Thorin kind of looks the same. They didn't make him like look younger really. So
1 year.
So yeah, just it kind of feels like an awkward transition from the end of the first movie to this, until you realize that they're talking about the stuff that they're going to be doing. So little bit of a weird one, but is what it is. So Gandalf convinces him that they need to get back to the Lonely Mountain. And what's cool about this is that you get that story thread of like Gandalf understands that there's some bad things coming, and the dwarves need to get back their home before these bad things come.
Kind of. I mean, he doesn't know about the darkness yet, right? this is before all that, but he understands there's something in Middle Earth that is changing. There's something changing about it.
Well, and that's what I mean.
was
He doesn't know that it is Sauron, you know, but he kind of understands that some things are coming.
Yep. They need to get back there.
Yeah.
And then he magically has, you know, Grandpa's key for the hidden doorway and all that stuff. He's like, hey, I got this thing and here's this map and I've been holding on to it for years and years. Surprise.
Yeah.
You're
Surprise.
like, oh.
Okay, thanks, dude.
Guess we're about to go on a journey here.
I know.
Little
adventure, you know.
First movie.
Yeah. And then first movie. So 12 months later, Thorin and his company are being pursued by Azog and his orc party. They are ushered along by Gandalf to the nearby home of Bjorn, a skin changer who can take the form of a bear.
Big bear.
And like this is a weird looking bear too. It's kind of the way that they designed it. It's got Bjorn, he's got kind of like this wolfness to his bear, but they still call him a bear. Like, did you get that sense?
I think, you know, well, we have our ideas of what bears look like.
Yeah.
But these are Middle Earth bears, right? So they can be a little bit different. It's also way bigger than any bear I've ever seen.
Humongous.
Living where I live, I do see bears, black bears and brown bears. And I've been to Alaska, so I've seen grizzly bears as well. And grizzly bears are big, but Bjorn is bigger. Yeah. He's a massive bear. So against hobbits and dwarves, but even still, and then as a person, he's ginormous. And I like what they did with him as a person, giving him the fur and the face and having his characteristics be different, because he's supposed to be one of the ancient peoples, and they did a good job with it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I like this opening. Really, I do. Because I mean, you have the comedy in it where like Gandalf is, you know, talking to Bjorn. All the dwarves believe that they're going to be eaten. And you know, he's kind of waiting for Bjorn to, you know, be okay with a bunch of dwarves in his house. But Gandalf tells the dwarves that, you know, I'm going to give you a signal to move because we're going to try to leave without him knowing that there were 12 dwarves in his house. And they don't understand what a signal is.
Anytime he does this or makes a movement, okay, 2 people come out. Yeah, that might be the best comedic scene in the trilogy. Hands down, I would say. It killed. Yeah. It was very good. It was very entertaining. The fact that during a very serious moment, they were able to break that tension and give you this comedic relief, especially because it goes right back into tension again. Necessary and very good. Done well.
Done very well. Okay, so that night, Azog is summoned to Dol Guldur by the Necromancer, who commands him to marshal his forces to war. Azog then delegates the hunt for Thorin to his son Bolg. Is it Bolg or Bulge?
Bolg.
Okay. Yeah. So meanwhile, the outline doesn't go through it, but meanwhile, you know, Bjorn he's talking to them. You know, he talked to the dwarves. He talked to Gandalf about the mysterious things happening here in Middle-earth. Bjorn, as you said, he's an ancient person, so he understands what's going on, and he hears rumors, he hears rumblings, you know, and he's kind of in the know. And so they're talking all about this, and then the following day, Bjorn actually does escort them and the company to the borders of Mirkwood, where Gandalf discovers black speech imprinted on an old ruin. So Bjorn's a cool dude after this. You know, he lends them ponies a little bit, you know, and kind of helps a little bit.
He's agreeable to their plight, at least as far as getting them safely to the borders of Mirkwood. I don't think he cares big picture so much about their journey. I think he is very concerned about Gandalf's journey. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what he says to them in their little round table that they were having, he says to Thorin, he's like, I hate dwarves, but I hate orcs more. So like, he's like, I'm going to help you guys just this once, but know that I still hate you, you know? So.
Yep. And it's good. It's entertaining. You get to learn a little bit more about the character of Bjorn and a little bit more about the humility that the dwarves can have in the presence of someone who could easily maul them and destroy them.
So anyway, the Black Speech, by the way, is a fictional language created, and it was spoken language in Mordor, the evil realm, and so that's what Gandalf does discover there. And so this, and a prior request by Galadriel, urge Gandalf himself to investigate the tombs of Nazgul. And so we kind of, we learned a little bit about this in the first movie, where they realized that the necromancer is raising people from the dead, and so he is going to, on this small quest here, to figure out what is happening in these tombs. And
yeah, he has a side quest, natural RPG story arc.
Mm-hmm. And what's happening here is that they are being separated, like he is going and he is leaving the troop, and the dwarves and Bilbo were slightly hesitant this time to let him go.
Naturally, they've just experienced probably the most insane, disastrous part of their journey up to date, trying to get through the goblin mines and all that through the mountain. So I can understand the hesitancy. You're super powerful wizard who just slayed the Goblin King and rescued you, and he can crack rocks in half and stuff like that and bring on sunlight that was already there. It's important to have a wizard with you. So the fact that the wizard is leaving and you feel a little bit more vulnerable, hesitancy is understandable, but then remarkably they recover really quickly from that and they just keep going. They're like, oh man, it's sad. Okay, go. And then into Mirkwood they go. And then I love how the book describes Mirkwood. The movie does an okay job of it, but like in the book, it's supposed to be like this overwhelming, like it's a beautiful place and it has this sense that it just drowns out your, it makes you not care. And that they sort of get lost in these woods for a while. And in this one, like the woods are a little bit creepier than that, and then they've got all the spiders and stuff like that, and it's different, but they do the same thing, and it all ends to the Wood Elf Kingdom. The spider scene was a little bit like yikes, though. I live with some arachnophobes here, and they're not fans.
No, so they go, and Gandalf tells them to stay on this path, but they do deviate from that, and so they enter the forest, they lose their way and are ensnared by giant spiders. Bilbo, he has the ring at this point and he's utilizing it. And one of the cool things about the ring here is it gives him the power to understand the giant spiders and what they are talking about. So their own language, Bilbo has the ability to listen to them, and let's just say they're very excited to eat the dwarves. Extremely excited. Dwarves. Yep.
Yum, yum, yum. Mm-hmm. Juicy, plump dwarves.
So, but Bilbo is able to set them free, and, the dwarves do get their weapons, and they fight back, and they are sort of overwhelmed at this point. And as you said, some wood elves come out of the woodwork there to help save. So the wood elves are, again, legacy characters that we know of. So Tauriel and Legolas. So,
Enter the Wood Elf Kingdom. Boom.
Yeah.
Right before that, though, like they were handing it pretty handily to the spiders. They were doing a great job defending themselves. And then, like, right at the end there, after they feel like they're doing pretty good, a bunch of wood elves show up and they're like, all right, wood elves watch them like destroy all the spiders, and now they're going to take them prisoner. And they capture them because dwarves and elves don't get along. We get Tauriel, leading them into the Wood Elf Kingdom with Legolas. And how did you feel about his face? Like, little bit CG going on there. Were you okay with that? Because it threw me off a
Yeah,
lot.
I mean, they had to do something, and just like the way that CG probably was at that point, it wasn't like as good as what we saw in Mandalorian when they brought Luke Skywalker back.
Yeah.
So I just it's passable. I will say that it's a little weird. They made his face a little fuller than it was in the original trilogy. Kind of made him a little bit more plump in the cheeks, which that I thought was weird because, in the original trilogy, he did have that like, kind of like chiseled jaw, that kind of like Orlando Bloom has. And I thought that was interesting why they switched that out. But overall, I guess it was okay.
I think they were going for a younger, rounder, more boyish face, which it just didn't work for me. It kind of pulled me out of it. Thankfully, with Kate from Lost, Toriel, she's not in the other one, so we kind of get to just accept her how she is. Thranduil, something. The King, another one, was also not in there, so we get him how he is. He was in the first movie though, but again, same character actor and everything. The Wood Elf Kingdom, I really enjoyed that scene. Because in my head while reading the books, I didn't have the vision that Peter Jackson had. I loved how beautiful it was. I loved how big and open it was. I don't understand where it was, but like it was big and beautiful and awesome inside. I just don't know what it was inside of. Like, is it in the forest? Is it in a tree? Is it in the ground? Like,
must have been a huge tree. Must have been a huge, huge tree. I was confused that because Evangeline Lilly is in the original trilogy, but she's not Tariel in the original trilogy. Isn't she in the original trilogy?
I don't think so.
I'm probably mistaken.
You thinking Arwen? It's a different elf.
But isn't it the same actress?
No, that was Arwen was played by Liv Tyler.
Oh, okay. They look very similar. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Beautiful women.
No, they just.
I don't think they look similar, but
I don't know. I was
very
confused.
pretty elves.
I was confused.
But yeah, no, they're great. And then ensues like a great scene, like the river barrel chase scene, Barrel Rider. Where Bilbo gets one of his nicknames. I really liked that. I really enjoyed it. I thought that the dwarf elf romance was a bit much, but like I really enjoyed the rest of that scene, and like all of that was fun. It was another fun moment of action inside a pretty tense situation.
So yeah, let's kind of go. So Thorin confronts the Elven King about his neglect of the dwarves of Erebor following Smaug's attack 170 years earlier, and is consequently imprisoned with the other dwarves. Bilbo does avoid capture, and he does arrange an escape. They take the wine barrels that they were making wine out of. I don't know how else to speak to that. The elves were making wine, and all the dwarves kind of go into these wine barrels, and he has a handy dandy like ladder, latch that he undoes, and they all fall into the river.
They got the lever he pulls, and down they go.
Yeah, and so they go into the river, and this is my favorite scene. This is my favorite scene in this whole movie. Just I just love the fighting that you see. I love the camaraderie that you kind of see between the dwarves, like they're helping each other, tossing each other weapons. Excuse me, the bigger dwarf, I forget his name, but he gets into a barrel and he has those two weapons and he goes on like a spin cycle to, fighting the orcs and stuff.
Bomber.
Yeah. And Yeah, and then you got Legolas and some of the other elves. And so just some really cool scenes. I'm a huge fan of like Rangers and stuff and like, D&D style games. So like just seeing Legolas and Tariel just like do amazing stuff.
Yeah, absolutely own.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They destroy. Like to be fair, the elves are described as this sort of people in the books. I mean, they're light, they're fast, they can, they're strong, they can jump higher, they can do, they're unbelievable archers. They have all of these skills, and this is probably the first time that's showcased really well, balancing on top of the heads of the dwarves in the river and shooting at the same time. Like you get a little bit of that with the shield scene in the Two Towers. But up until that point, like the only other instance you get of the elves being like really different is Legolas can walk on top of the snow, whereas everyone else is trudging through it.
Yeah.
He can see a little bit further, whereas everyone else struggles to see a little bit further. But the first time you see their skill, is here in the Hobbit series, and it's fun. Like, I'll give you that much. It was a very fun scene.
Yeah.
Maybe over the top, but like sometimes that's good. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Definitely fun. The camaraderie's fun. The
100%.
the tossing of the weapons, the floating down, the falling, getting soaked, and making it light while still being a very intense situation was it was good.
Yeah. Super fun. So let's see here. Where are we?
10-minute boat chase down the river
Yes.
leads to them getting to the end. They finally get to the end, and they run into Bard.
Okay,
Really
so yes, all of this is happening, and meanwhile, Gandalf and Radagast go to investigate the tombs of Nazgul, which they find to be empty. So those guys have been resurrected. The company is smuggled by Esgaroth by a bargeman called Bard. Or smuggled into Esgaroth by a bargeman called Bard. Bard's an interesting character. He's kind of the people's person, he's in it for the small guy, he's in it for just his people and trying to see them succeed. Stuff like that.
He's Captain America.
Sort of,
right?
yeah.
He's the people's hero. He's the down to earth. He's the same as everyone else, but he's also, a little bit better. The other people there are all struggling, and he's making it work. He's got a family. His wife has passed away. He's still making it work. He also is descended from the archer who took the shot at Smaug. So he has a past, maybe not a great one because Smaug's still alive and living in the mountain, but he's descended from good stock, quote unquote.
Yeah. All right. So Thorin, after meeting Bard and Bard kind of smuggling them into Esgaroth, he promises the master and the people of Lake Town a share of the mountain's treasure. Now, Bard, like you and I were talking previously, like he is the people's people. He's kind of like the people's champ. He is. He's once again, he like supports the oppressed and supports all those people that the master is not really supporting at all,
Stephen Fry's Master of Lake Town. I love Stephen Fry, by the way. Huge Stephen Fry fanboy. I forgot he was in this movie. And then they do that first scene with the Master of Lake Town. I was like, trying to look through the disguise. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's Stephen Fry. What the heck? And then sure enough, it is him. And like, it's such a fun little addition to sneak him in there, and then to make him be a bad guy, right? Or like quote unquote bad guy, to make him be a pretty typical hierarchy. Yeah, that word. Yeah, that king. Taking everything from the people. He was, the bad guy in Robin Hood, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I hated those characters, like him and his.
Oh,
little
Alfred?
minion. Yeah, like
The fact they gave him Batman's butler's
yeah,
name.
this is probably the worst part of the movie, for me, or at least one of them. It's just, man, like it harkens a little bit back to the Goblin King in the last episode or last movie. Kind of like this like silly, unnecessary like style of character that, man, it just didn't hit. Like this was I guess I'm okay with just like I'm okay with Bard for sure and his family. Like that's cool. And I'm kind of okay with this prophecy that this little lake town kind of has, you know, that Thorin is going to be the one that, you know, ultimately like helps take down Smaug. Yeah.
Bring gold flowing down the river. And
I'm down with that, but other than that, everything about this lake town stuff is just awful. Like it's bad.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I love I love the master character. I think it's fitting to have a guy like that here to oppress the people, to put them in a state where, you know, they want revenge or they want to get out from under that oppression. I don't like them because they're made to be not liked, but I don't like them for that reason. Like I don't like them because they're designed to be hateable characters. I think they did a really good job with that. I think that the actors portrayed that well. They did a really good job acting that out, saying like, you know, with Alfred being the conniving little snake weasel character, always looking out for himself.
Is this in the book? Are those characters in the book? By
the Master of Lake Town is, I can't remember if Alfred's character exists as like, at least as that strong of a character. Yeah. But there was tension there. There was tension. They had to sneak them into Lake Town. They had to do it underneath the Master's nose. Yeah. Then eventually there was that deal that they make, that Thorin makes, and then the Master treats him, you know, as esteemed guest because he realizes that, oh, there's a chance for me to make it. You know, I can be better. I can be wealthier. I can get more for me. So that is, you know, true to the book itself. Maybe not how it happens in the movie, but at least the situation and the characters exist. There is a moment where that turns. There's a moment where they go from being kind of snuck in as refugees that shouldn't be there to guests of honor, and they're given all this stuff, and they do make that, you know, they continue on their journey to the Lonely Mountain.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that like Thorin, you know, he reveals himself to the Master and to Lake Town as well. And this Lake Town, like, they know the prophecy. They are very keen on what is going to happen here. They know the name Thorin. It is in their minds. And to have kind of the Master embrace Thorin in definitely a hypothetical and hypocritical and unfortunate way, but he does embrace him, you know, and you know, it's all for selfish gain, but ultimately Thorin and the boys, they are company. They are willing and ready to go to the mountain now, because the Master has given them, you know, a place to stay, because Thorin's like, hey, you know, you guys can have some treasures, you know, and they've also given him gear to, you know, go ahead and traverse to the mountain. So, and then afterwards, as you already said, it was revealed that Bard is a descendant of the last ruler of Dale and possesses the last black arrow capable of killing Smaug. So, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Watch out for the third movie.
I love that it's his like pot and herb holder.
Yeah,
in his kitchen, right? It's just a rod at this point. It's my curtain rod, so it doubles as a dragon killing arrow. But it's my curtain rod, so it's cool. It's decorative. Looks pretty.
I mean, it's pretty sick. Like this curtain rod's gonna stab a dragon. I mean, come on. Eventually.
Next episode, stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. Foreshadow. So now the other unfortunate thing is that Keeley is forced to stay behind because back in the barrel scene, he was shot by a arrow from an orc that had poison on it.
Yep.
So he is unfortunately down for the count, and he is getting worse. He's getting worse by the minute. And then eventually...
Love interest. Oh, wait. No, I mean, Toriel.
And then eventually there are orcs that do end up finding them at this lake town, and thankfully, because the dwarves are clearly not ready for this, there's only 3 of them, there's only 4 of them at this point, which is Keely, Feely, Oin, and Bofer. They are all back. Bofer's back because he slept too long.
Yep. Whoopsie daisy.
Yeah, right. So anyway,
it happens.
Yeah, it happens. Got a little happy the night before,
Yeah, he partook in some drink.
He partayed. Definitely a little warm milk. So anyway, thankfully, Legolas and Tauriel are on the heels of these orcs as well, and so they're able to fend them off in order to save these dwarves. And thankfully as well, Keely is going to be all better here soon, because Tauriel with her magic elven
healing powers. It's a real thing.
Yep,
and
elven healing
King's
powers.
Foil, which is a herb, which everyone else says is a weed, but to elves it's an herb, and it's a healing herb.
So yeah, she's able to stop the poison and kind of get him on the mend.
Yeah, just like Arwen. No big deal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the rest of the company does receive a grand farewell. All of this is happening, and meanwhile Gandalf is traveling south to the ruins of Dol Guldur, while Radagast leaves to warn Galadriel of their discovery at the tombs. Gandalf finds the ruins infested with orcs and is ambushed by Azog. The necromancer overpowers and defeats Gandalf and reveals himself as... Dun dun dun!
Who could have guessed it?
It's
the guy from the other
Sauron.
Movies that came out years before.
Yeah, makes sense. But what this outline here doesn't say is that he does actually find Thorin's dad. Thorin's dad is actually not dead, or is it his grandpa?
So he finds his grandpa there, Thrain,
Yeah.
and yeah, he was not killed. He was just taken captive, but maybe he was killed and he was brought back from the dead by the name. He hasn't aged a day. Then again, dwarves and elves age differently than hobbits and men. So maybe he has aged a day and he just looks the same. He looks really good for a dude who's like, 500 years old. No big deal.
Right.
But yeah, he does find him there in the tombs. With Sauron or
and
or
he's worried that Gandalf, doesn't have the key anymore, but Thorin does, and so he kind of assures him that it's kind of in good hands, that the map and the key are in your family line still. And yeah, this was an awesome scene. Just like, this is probably my second favorite scene.
Really?
Yeah.
Surprising.
Yeah, I mean, again, we'll get to Smaug. Smaug's a very close third, but I'll get to the reasoning why it's a third. But like, I just love Gandalf. Like,
That's right.
Like,
you get to see his power again.
You get to see his power,
how he handles
and
situations.
And like, same thing with Star Wars with you. You like space wizards. Like I like wizards. Like I like.
Me too.
I love Gandalf. Like, I love all this this ability that he's showing. It's just really cool. But like, it's also cool that like, you kind of see the power of the dark side coming out of Sauron here, and like, you realize that, man, if he gets a hold of that one ring, like, it's gonna be bad news bears.
Yeah, it's gonna be like 3,000 years ago all over again.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, give or take a few hundred years.
Yeah. So Gandalf, he's kind of, I think he's taking captured, right? So we don't see Gandalf for the rest of the movie, I believe.
No, there's that big kind of battle, a power struggle, if you will, between the darkness, Sauron, and initially Thrain and Gandalf, and then there's this weird sacrifice moment where Thrain gets like stolen by the darkness for no reason whatsoever, and then you don't see either of them again for a while. Well, you can assume that one of them's gone forever, and then they kind of just all right, now cut back to whatever's going back on in the mountain with Bilbo and the dragon and the dwarves.
That's it.
And you don't see Gandalf again until the next film.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So stay
maybe
tuned.
He's okay. Maybe he wins. Maybe he loses.
I mean, he's okay, we know, but we'll see next episode. So, Thorin and his remaining company reach the Lonely Mountain, which, again, man, did they choose the right places to film these movies. They are just traversing this mountain,
New Zealand?
and it is freaking beautiful in New Zealand. It is,
New Zealand
it's
is
just epic.
is like one of the most diverse landscapes in the world, as far as you can go from literally ocean to thousands of feet above sea level in like a few kilometers. Literally it can go from 3,000 or 4,000 feet above sea level straight down into the ocean. So you get these unbelievable landscapes, the rolling hills, all of this stuff. Peter Jackson, kudos, you picked the best spot. And New Zealand, right on for saying okay.
Yeah. Now, Bilbo, we haven't really talked too much about him in this movie,
He doesn't play a very large role.
He's not really, until the third act, so we'll kind of see him here. And one of the things that you kind of realize about Bilbo is that he's not only the burglar, the person who is supposed to be this sneaky little thief. He's also the smartest out of all of the company.
He's definitely the best at reasoning, right?
Yeah.
He's for sure the best at thinking things through before acting.
Yeah. So he actually realizes that the riddle of the map is that the moon is going to show you the keyhole. So they were thinking that the last light of Doran's day was going to be the sun, but actually it is the moon. It was the last light of Doran's day. So
this was kind of unfortunate because in the book it's when the sun and moon hang in the same sky.
Oh, really?
Only then will the keyhole reveal itself, and I think that's it happens a lot, unfortunately, and that's why they couldn't do that. So it had to be Durin's day and that time. Yeah, but had they had the sun and moon together in the sky, I wish they would have kept that the same.
Yeah,
because descripting the description of that it just holds something near and dear to my heart. I'd rather have that one. But it was good. He did figure out, hey, there's different lights in the sky. After the sun goes down, there's another one.
So there is, they find the keyhole and they get in, and he is sent to retrieve the Arkenstone. Now, what this outline doesn't talk about, and what I think is key to this, is that Thorn is changed. At this moment, his character is changed, in a way that he was in a way that he was talking about, that he was saying it wasn't going to happen to me, even though I'm a part of this same line of dwarves that love gold and are very greedy, it's not going to happen to me, and so you kind of see Bilbo doesn't want to go in by himself, and Thorin's you're going in, and that was the ever so slight change to his demeanor there that kind of shows the power of this lonely mountain to the king line. And specifically the gold.
Yeah, the allure of this vast treasure. And I don't remember exactly what they call it in the book, but it's something like that, the king's downfall or something. along those lines, and it happened to the whole line. Like his whole lineage has this greed in them, where it goes beyond. It rivals that of the dragon's greed, right?
Yeah,
they don't care about people anymore so much as getting what's theirs, and that's where he was at. Shoves Bilbo in through the hole. You're going, boom.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't really have a choice.
So Bilbo is in search for the Arkenstone. They didn't really tell him what it looks like because
they said you'll know it when you see it.
You'll know it when you see it. So he's finding all these different types of like diamonds, these rock crystals, like
massive,
everything that are just like huge things. And Bilbo's smart enough though that it's like, if they said that you'll know the Arkenstone when you see it, it's not just going to be some regular old crystal. So Bilbo's kind of smart enough to be a little patient, but in his patience, he unfortunately wakes the dragon, Smaug, and Smaug is awesome, dude. Like, I love.
Agreed.
First of all, Benedict Cumberbatch does a phenomenal job. Yeah, it's just amazing.
If you have not watched his voice acting, where he crawls around and actually acts like it, highly advise you watch it. Talking to you and the viewers, it is unbelievable, and you understand more of how he gets into the character and how he delivers his lines. They gave him kind of free reign. They put him in a mocap suit, motion capture thing where they put all the dots on his face and put a camera right in front of it, and then all over his body he's wearing one of those like morph suits. And it's probably what has the most redeeming qualities to this film is I know the behind the scenes and how it was filmed. Smaug is amazing. Benedict Cumberbatch is unbelievable as the voice of Smaug. Although he credits his father as being the best version, and he's a second-rate version of his dad. Benedict says that. So I would have loved to have heard his dad's version of Smaug because the movie is unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing too, is that like what you kind of said there is all this like, the movie is fun throughout, but as you're watching it, the climax of it is this huge dragon, and you're thoroughly, thoroughly, thoroughly invested even into the extended edition, because at the end, you just know that you're probably going to see the best performance in the whole movie, and that was Benedict Cumberbatch. Now, before we get into specifics of it, this is, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if this is because it was the extended edition, but I think that this third act drags a lot. I think there's a lot of filler.
I disagree, but
I just think it's too long. I just think it's too long. Like, and I'm not talking about those tension scenes that, are talking him and Bilbo and stuff. I'm actually talking more so like when the dwarves enter the scene, and like I think there's just like too much running around, too much like figuring things out. Like I think it's just a little bit too long of a third act, despite a brilliant performance by both Martin Freeman and Benedict Cumberbatch as Smaug. So,
I could see that. If you're not into the dwarves doing their thing, it can feel a bit long, especially as, they're struggling to light the furnaces and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It is true to the story because they do have an encounter like that. So I appreciated it. I'm glad that they didn't skip it, I guess.
Yeah.
So for me, I think that's why it wasn't too long, because I was like, okay, well, at least this is in the book, right? I can be happy. They've added so much to this movie already, because the whole thing with Gandalf and the tombs and going on, his whole side quest is made up. Like, none of that is real. None of that is authentic to the book. None of that happens in the Hobbit story. Like, all of that is extra for me.
But it's good. It's a good addition.
I didn't think so. So that, so I know you really enjoyed it, but for me, like, that was like, okay, like, I already know what happens with that story. Like, we have the Lord of the Rings to talk about Sauron. I'm here for Bilbo's journey and the dwarves and Smaug and what happens there, and so that took me out of it. And then this was like, okay, this is supposed to be here. So it's funny that for us, like, it's switched. It's totally backwards. And like, because you're right, the Gandalf stuff is good. It's not a bad story to add.
Yeah.
It just, for me, wasn't authentic to the story itself. So I was like, I don't need that. I don't want that.
And I'm not, I'm not saying, I'm not saying that like, I'm not saying that like this third act didn't need to happen, or it's not, or it's, antithetical to the book. What I just mean is that like there were some scenes in there that just didn't take me out of it, but I felt like you could take this out and you would still get the gist. So I just thought it was kind of long. But regardless, he and Bilbo, so going back to kind of the beginning of this third act here, he and Bilbo are having a conversation. Smaug reveals his knowledge of both the dwarves' plot to retake the gold and the return of Sauron. So Smaug is like, although he's been sleeping a lot, he is kind of privy to a lot of information. And not only that,
deeply magical ancient creature. Yeah, he understands how that world works. He can feel those changes in the world itself.
Yeah. And not only that, what is really awesome is that Bilbo uses his ring, and Smaug still knows where he is. Like he's able to smell him. He is able to feel his presence. It's just really, I thought that was really cool. That like, despite the power that Bilbo has, like, it's no match for this huge dragon,
Yeah. Not even close. And what a beautiful scene that is when I can smell you, I can feel your air, I can like, beautiful scene. Just, it paints a picture. You don't need to see it, like, and that was so wonderful about the story. Like, that's from the book. It paints this unbelievable picture of what's happening in that moment, and you get a really good understanding of Smaug and his power and his ability and what he's capable of, and you get an understanding of like kind of how screwed they are, right? Like, okay, we have no chance. I'm a hobbit who's like, what, 2 feet tall, 3 feet tall. We got a bunch of dwarves who might be 6 inches taller than me. And he's a dragon who breathes fire, who knows where we are no matter what. He can smell us. He knows our taste. He knows everything about us. The only thing throwing him off is that he's never smelled a hobbit before. That's what he was curious about. He didn't care that he was there or anything. It's like, oh, that's a new smell. What are you?
Right.
What is this thing?
It's that new car smell. Okay, so meanwhile, back in Lake Town, Bard attempts to bring the Black Arrow to the town's launcher, as he fears what may happen when the dwarves enter the mountain. However, he is arrested by the master and his conniving servant Alfred. Oh, by the way, Alfred is spelled differently. It's with an I instead of an E.
Alfrid.
In the process, and leaves his son to hide the arrow. Bolg and his orc party then infiltrate the town, attack the 4 dwarves. We already talked about that. They're dispatched. Legolas leaves in pursuit of Bolg. Meanwhile, Gandalf watches helplessly as Azog and an orc army march from Dol Guldur towards the Lonely Mountain. And then, there is this huge chase scene. Afterwards, Smaug is chasing Bilbo. The dwarves enter the scene, and they know this place. This is their home. So they start getting their quote-unquote weaponry. I say quote-unquote because these aren't weapons, but they are utilizing them as traps for Smaug. There's there's lava that they're doing because they're essentially blacksmiths, right? So they're
it's mining tools.
Yeah, it's mining tools, all that. Yeah, so
traps and barricades and whatever else they can do to stop a freaking dragon.
Yeah, exactly. And the end of this was awesome, and it sort of reminded me, maybe a little less so. I don't think it was as good, but it was close. Sort of reminded me of the blood scene in Ready Player One. because what happens is they melt this huge gold statue. And the gold...
They cast a giant statue.
Yeah, and the CGI and the gold flood over Smaug. And that was awesome. It was really cool. It was a cool scene.
Yeah, if you're watching in 4K, which please, whatever you got to do to watch it in 4K, do it. It's worth it. This scene hits. Like, they make fun of it in the Honest trailer, but it looks so good. Like, they pour and cast this absolutely massive, we're talking Empire State size statue of a dwarf holding a big old battle axe.
Yeah.
Pure solid gold. And they do it so it's tempered on the outside just enough to hold its structure for 10 seconds.
Yeah, to kind of allure a dragon who loves gold. So they're luring Smaug. He's like, oh, this big, huge gold statue. I love it. And then eventually it gets hot enough where it liquefies. And when it starts liquefying is what Joe is talking about there, listeners. Like, it looks so good in 4K. It looked amazing. And it just overwhelms Smaug, but to no avail.
Yeah, they think, oh man, he'll drown in the gold and he'll get hardened and then he'll get stuck. And And you have that moment, right? That beautiful moment where the entire Great Hall is flooded. This thing is like 1,000 feet long, and the whole thing is 20 feet deep in gold. And there's a dragon submerged in the gold, and they think, we did it, right? They have that moment of, yes, we did it. We won. We defeated a dragon. We beat him. He's drowning in gold right now. And then 2 seconds after, you're like, oh, they did that scene just long enough to make you think it. And then 2 seconds later, boom.
Yeah.
Out of the freaking gold, you get these wings, you get the head, you get the long neck, the body, and he's pissed.
And he's pissed.
He is mad. And he wants blood. He is out for revenge now. He's going to make sure everybody burns, everybody dies, and then after the dwarves have to watch him just destroy everything, then he's going to take care of them. So they can watch him destroy everything and then die themselves.
Yeah.
He mad.
He is very mad. And yeah, the reason why, the reason why this movie is better than the third for me, and we will get to the third, is because this movie ends on such an awesome cliffhanger. Just like,
pretty good.
It was amazing. I loved it. You get Benedict Cumberbatch delivering probably one of the best lines in the movie. Revenge, revenge, I will show you revenge. I am fire, I am death. And it just and then Bilbo, it cuts to Bilbo and says, what have we done? And they have unleashed this huge dragon, Smaug, onto the surrounding area, Lake Town, and all of that.
Basically just Lake Town, because there's one other town that they don't talk about at all.
Yeah.
And it's just Lake Town. The only one you know in the movie is Lake Town. And you're like, oh man, we kind of sentenced all those poor people to death, and they had nothing to do with it.
Well, and which is why Bard was so smart in predicting, hesitant, and he understood that nothing good is going to come from them awaking this dragon. And yeah, the end of this movie was awesome. It was good. I thought it dragged a little bit, but at the end of the day, you just get this final scene of seeing a huge dragon flying to take his revenge on everybody here. And he has the power to do so. And so that's where we end. That's the Desolation of Smaug. So
cutscene, enter Ed Sheeran, you get this cool song, and done. Credits roll.
Yeah, exactly. So, Joe, we are going to give a ranking to this movie. And remember, listeners, we have not, we did change our ranking system. So 5 is amazing, 4 is great, 3 is good, 2 is okay, and 1 is bad. And so, Joe, on that scale, where are you rating The Desolation of Smaug?
Solid 2.
Just okay.
It is absolutely okay. Yeah, there's too much here. Like the way we describe it, obviously we're gonna make it sound a little bit better, because we're gonna talk about the highlights more than the pitfalls of the film.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of pitfalls of the film. There was a lot of areas where I'm like, okay, not jiving with it, not handling it. Like it's not true to the story, things like that. Like, and those, while I know they're different things, they do pull me out of it. And I am one of those obnoxious purists who book is always better, and I don't want you to add things. Stop doing that. Don't change it. I'm one of those people. I'll admit it. It was watchable, like the first one. The first one I think was good to okay. This one is okay, and then I would say if you're a fan, go ahead and watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not a fan, you're probably not gonna love it.
Yeah. I am a solid 3 on this, so I think it's good. I think that a lot of those pitfalls that you probably would mention, we probably agree on, but I think that surrounding those pitfalls, I liked the highs probably more than you. So
there's enough to bring it up. Yeah.
And I'm also sort of basing it on what I believe my ranking of the third movie will be, a little bit, because I do believe that, I haven't watched Battle of the Five Armies since theaters, so we'll see. But from what I remember, it does go in descending order for me as far as which ones I like the most. And maybe we'll get, Battle of the Five Armies will get to that number 3, being good for me. But we'll talk about it next episode. There's just one thing that I cannot forgive for that movie. And so we'll talk about it. So
is it existing? That's the one thing.
Anyway,
so you know where I feel about it, guys.
Yeah. So yeah, that is our rankings of Desolation of Smaug, and I think I hear something. Do you hear something?
Oh, yeah.
Hello, this is the Duck, coming live over in Lonely Mountain, and I have to be rather quiet because there is something stalking me here in this gold-ridden room. Let's get real here. This movie was not the best. I'm talking about The Hobbit 2, the second part of the trilogy, The Desolation of Smaug. And other than a few very good visuals with cinematography, with, we've got the barrel ride down the river with, the elves chasing after it and firing arrows and killing orcs. Looked great, phenomenal, to when, Bilbo actually gets in the Lonely Mountain and there's Smaug stalking his every move and talking with him with that bass in his voice. Very good. But other than that, this movie did not hold up to the first. And I don't even think it held up to the third one, honestly, and that's tough for me to say. I give this, on our rating scale, a 2, an okay out of 5. If you're a fan, go see it. If not, skip it. Like I said, one of the best gold, with all the gold in that room, looks great. If you're watching 4K, looks phenomenal. Storyline, not that great. It kind of slagged on and kept going, and then didn't really pack that punch that I wanted. Even with the ending quote, just didn't hit me as hard as the first movie did. So, like I said, a 2 is very valid for this. Okays out of 5.
Thief. I smell you. I hear your breath. I feel your air.
Well, thank you, Duck, for your review of that movie. So appreciate you,
See you
just
later.
hopping in.
Hopefully
Talk
you
to you
live.
later. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, listeners, for checking in our episode of Hobbit: The Desolation of Smaug. Let us know what you think about the movie down in the comments or in a podcast review. We would really appreciate it. If you want to follow us, we are at Twitter, at Facebook, at What the Fun Pod. Go ahead and check us out there. Please follow us. Give us a like. Let us know what you think of the episode. And look forward to the following. So we will have the third movie out next week. So we are getting these reviews out weekly in anticipation, once again, for the Rings of Power series coming out on Amazon Prime. So that will be the show for today. My name is Mike. This is Joe. Thank you, Justin, wherever you are. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye, everyone.